Hey YouTube, how you doing tonight? I just caught a really interesting article off of Democracy Now! About the connection that they found between lead poisoning, early exposure to lead, and criminal activity in later life. It's just interesting. I'd never heard that before, so I Googled it. If excuse me, I'm just now getting over a real bad respiratory infection. One of the articles I thought was really interesting, talking about Rudy Giuliani never misses an opportunity to remind people around his track record in fighting crime as mayor of New York from 1994 to 2001. A quote from Rudy says, "I begin with a city that that was the crime capital of America." Giuliani said, "When I left, it was the safest large city in America. I reduced homicides by 67%. I reduced overall crime by 57%. But this article from the Washington Post is saying that although crime did fall dramatically in his tenure, there's a broad range of scientific research that has emerged in recent years to show that the mayor deserves only a fraction of the credit that he claims. The most compelling information has come from an economist in Fairfax who has argued in a series of little-noticed papers, little-noticed, mind you, anything about poor people or people of color committing crimes in this country is, it's like Fox has it, major lead-in news special, that the New York miracle, quote-unquote, was actually caused by local and federal efforts decades earlier in reducing lead poisoning. Lead levels plummeted in New York in the early 1970s, driven by public policies to eliminate lead from gasoline and local policies to reduce lead emissions. Between 1970 and 74, the number of New York children heavily poisoned by lead fell by more than 80%. And that is what they're saying this lowering in the crime statistics is due to. Then the lead levels in New York have continued to fall. One analysis in the late 1990s found that children in New York had lower lead exposure than children anywhere, possibly because of the 1960 policy to replace old windows. The policy meant to reduce deaths from falls had an unforeseen benefit. Old windows were the source of lead poisoning. The later drop in violent crime was dramatic. In 1990, 31 New Yorkers out of every 100,000 were murdered. In 2004, the rate was 7 per 100,000. Wow, the lead theory also may explain why crime fell broadly across the United States in the 1990s, not just New York. So what's interesting is the article goes on to say that Nevin's findings implies a double tragedy for America's inner cities. Thousands of children in these neighborhoods were poisoned by lead in the first 3/4 of the last century, and large numbers of them then became the targets in the last quarter of Giuliani-style law enforcement policies.